Great, so we're going to get started now. Thank you for attending today's webinar, Best Practices for Your 2018 Marketing Planning, presented by WorkSpan. My name is Shen Chen, and I'm the marketing lead at WorkSpan, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. As someone who's experienced the struggle of creating a holistic marketing plan that takes into account multiple stakeholders and dimensions, I know that this topic is really important and timely since many of us are starting to plan for next year's calendar. I'd like to introduce our featured speaker for today. Amit Sinha is WorkSpan's Chief Customer Officer. And as the Chief Customer Officer, he's responsible for marketing, customer success, and our user experience. Amit spent a dozen years at SAP in various marketing leadership roles. He was responsible for bringing SAP HANA to the market and growing it into a $1.5 billion business within 3 years. The challenges of growing a business with a diverse partner ecosystem led him to co-found WorkSpan. Really excited to have him speaking today. So,
hey, thank you, Shen. Glad to be here. Look forward to speaking with all of you.
Thank you, Amit. Are you planning or procrastinating right now? It feels like 2018 is months and months away, but now is really the time to start thinking about your 2018 marketing campaign plan. 3/4 of the calendar year has already passed, and unless you've got a big user conference to manage in the coming months, no one is asking you about your 2017 plans unless you're really behind. They just want to know what's coming up next or how you're going to fix the problems. If you're in the retail and CPG space, you're getting ready for the make or break holiday season, and you won't have time to come up for air until mid-January. And more importantly, there are only 88 more shopping days until Christmas and only 96 days until January 1. So I'm sure all of us are marketers here, and we know that planning can be extremely painful. First of all, it's complex. With the number of product launches that your company has, product lines, the number of geographies that you need to support, and that's not just your global regions, but within the Americas, you might be divided up into 4 or 8 or 12 regions, and you need to make sure your marketing plan encompasses all of those regions and can divvy up the leads and the campaigns to them. You have new lines of businesses that you're expanding into. You have new marketing channels that you need to utilize and make sure that you're getting a good mix of leads coming in from one place or another. And you have strategic partners that you really need to take into account, their needs and their plans as well. Plans are always changing. The goalposts keep moving. Your goals are always getting bigger. Your sales targets are getting bigger. They're never shrinking. New stakeholders are always emerging. You'll have more strategic partners being announced, not fewer, more product lines coming to the table, more product owners coming to the table, and planning cycles are shrinking. Many companies do an annual plan. A lot of companies now are doing quarterly planning, and we've even talked to several companies who are on WorkSpan who do monthly marketing planning cycles. And then lastly, planning can be painfully unrealistic. Will the plan survive reality? There's a quote that's attributed to the boxer Mike Tyson that everyone has a plan until they're hit in the face. And that's like your marketing plan. Will it really survive the reality of execution? Will your team stick to it once the year is moving forward? Or will they only try to optimize for their own campaigns or their own tactical channels that they own? Will the leader survive the plan? You create a great plan, but as we all know, CMO tenures are shrinking, and sometimes a new leader will come in mid-year, and that throws the plan completely out the window. We've all done this. We'll take the copy and paste plan. We'll use last year's plan and add or subtract 15% across the goals, ask for a little bit more budget, knowing that some of that will be shaved off. And we'll add in some of this year's top buzzwords, AI, blockchain, machine learning, or whatever else to make people feel good that we've got that in place. Or the ivory tower plan. We'll have our marketing lead or central team decide on the plan and hand it down to us. It's cascaded down, and everyone will just kind of fill in their parts and make sure that everyone's in lockstep, but you're not really in agreement. Or the show me the money plan. And this is pretty common too, where you'll create a straw man plan just to get your budget, and you'll kind of throw away the plan as soon as you have the money. Um, it's just created on PowerPoint, and it's just a good story to show everyone and to make everyone feel good that you've got something in place, when in fact you're kind of just reacting to what the sales team needs, or what your executives are asking for, or what your partners are asking for. So there's definitely better ways to do this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And by all means, we're making fun of these kinds of plans. We've all, under pressure or under different circumstances, done one or the other. We've tried to, just to give you a sense, the last time I ran a marketing plan, the plan was cascaded down from headquarters down to regions and to partners, till somebody actually stopped me and said, look, this may work for a central team and the way you want to run this. But guess what? In Brazil, people go to market first by agriculture, then by oil and gas. And then if we have time, we'll do anything else. And that reality really shook me, because it's really in region, it's really with partners who face that reality, who see that market, who live and breathe that air. They know what works best down there. So, plans that miss that back and forth from a global to the region to the partner and back will always have the syndrome, the ivory tower plan, if you will, and miss it. And that's something that I have been particularly guilty of in the past.
Thank you for that, Amit.
Sure.
So we just have a little poll here that we'd like to ask everyone. What's your biggest pain point? What's the biggest challenge you face when you're creating your annual marketing plan? Great, thanks everyone. It looks like it's a tie between too many products and then lack of buy-in from stakeholders. So that's definitely something that we can address later on as we talk about the best practices for campaign planning.
Yeah, we'll certainly tune to those two points. All right. Moving ahead to the best practices for planning in 2018. So I know you all are in the midst of some level of planning. So we put this presentation together to primarily address this. Based on our experience of working with 70 plus companies on WorkSpan now, including majors like Intel, SAP, CenturyLink, and many other cloud infrastructure as well as application providers, we've seen a new pattern of marketing planning emerge. And this pattern is deeply rooted in ensuring that there's actually a collaborative network that comes together to execute things. So why not plan together as well? So as companies are getting into the final quarter here, not necessarily from a financial perspective, but from a calendar perspective, a lot of plans are now being put in place. So how does this planning cycle, a collaborative planning cycle, essentially begin? First and foremost, you will see this on WorkSpan as well. The idea is to develop shared, or what we call integrated marketing plans. And the idea of a shared marketing plan is that at the highest level, there are one or more plans, and these one or more plans will have stated business objectives and goals. But then it invites people to join each other's plans. So let's say I'm developing a plan for North America, whereas somebody else is developing a plan for APJ. There are two plans, but we join each other's plans so that we are aware of them. Similarly, instead of a regional distribution, if somebody is making a marketing plan for the channel organization or the strategic alliances organization, this is now a third or a fourth plan that individuals from a company will join. So the idea of the shared marketing plan is to do a couple of things. One is to open up budgets for each other so that you know how each other's budgets are being used and how you can help each other actually achieve those goals. So for example, there could be things for which the APJ region could be a pilot campaign driver, and that would benefit the North America region because they will get some campaigns that was partially built out by the other marketing region. So this idea of developing a shared marketing plan on a network is a new one, and we would certainly like to show this one to you. Next is, as you've seen, inviting to each other's plan is an essential part of the process. And one of the things that a real silo needs to be broken in is, can you also invite your strategic partners or even your channel partners into this planning process? So this invitation, this outside-in view coming into your planning cycle, is the second step in here. Now that you've got teams in here, not only their leaders, but also their larger teams, the idea here is to get as many ideas, source as many ideas as you can. And once you have those ideas in, let's say a plan for North America has 50 proposals coming in, how do you collaboratively make a decision? And this is where not the loudest person, not the squeakiest wheel gets the funding. The idea here is, could there be collaborative decision-making processes or prioritizations that you can do based on your KPIs that you had set for the plan? And people can point back to the KPI and agree that this campaign or this proposal makes the cut and others don't. And next, as you greenlight specific campaign proposals, whether they're coming from your channel partners or your regional partners, how do you drive accountability? To plan is one thing, and as Shin said, no plan survives execution. So how can you bring back results in real time back into the planning cycle and review process, into weekly, monthly, quarterly review process that you can drive accountability? And the idea here is push ownership down to individual campaign owners, but make sure that you have systems hooked up so that you are driving the accountability to that plan. And lastly, all plans need changes. Your market conditions will change, stakeholders will change, even executives will change. The idea here is, how do you be agile? How can you move money around? How can you move priorities around so that you can do more or different campaigns as the year passes on? And as you adjust, obviously you're developing another shared cycle here. So the loop continues because all changes are then also shared. And this starts the virtuous cycle of better planning. So this entire process of better planning on WorkSpan is done in a very simple way on WorkSpan. Towards the end of the demo, we'll share this with you in a demo. So going on to the next, the meat of this session actually, which is, what best practices have we seen executing this planning cycle that I just showed you. And we actually went back to all our data of 1,000+ campaigns, 70+ companies running in the entire last year. We've seen a lot of good campaigns. We've seen average campaigns. We've seen really bad campaigns. And we decided to segregate the outperforming campaigns from the average ones and try to see what patterns emerge. And this is largely in the high-tech industry. It's in the B2B space. So companies like Intel, SAP, CenturyLink, and 70 other companies who are on our platform. This is basically culling out the best practices coming from those planning cycles. Number one, best practice is set goals. There are a lot of intents out there, like grow pipeline, drive revenue, or even a higher order revenue number, like X hundred million in pipeline needs to be delivered, and so on and so forth. But really cascading that goal down, not only from the plan or the program level, but to individual campaigns. So that when that individual campaign proposal comes in to do a webinar or a lunch and learn or a roadshow, it should really have KPIs like attendees or marketing qualified leads that you're targeting for that webinar or that roadshow. And what we've seen is that campaigns that really have set these goals, they outperform others that don't have goals by 23%. And why is that happening? We feel there are two reasons. One is because you're measuring it, everybody's focused on meeting those goals. It's not just a number, it's really a team, a campaign team that comes together, often erasing boundaries of company silos or team silos, trying to meet and outperform that goal. So I think it becomes a rallying cry for the team to actually do this. And I know one such occasion where a team was out at an event. After day one, the number of scans were pretty low. On day two, they really hustled because they knew they had to hit this goal. And that really drove the whole team to really perform together in order to meet that number. And when you think of everybody owning that, everybody wearing that jacket, if you will, and driving their individual campaigns, and when you do it for 50, 60 campaigns that are part of your overall annual marketing plan, you suddenly see outperforming marketing plans and programs. So key is setting goals. Actually, there are a lot of measure metrics and outcomes, but few actually set a program goal and try and see what that gap is. So I do believe that this is the number one best practice that we found working on campaigns on WorkSpan. Second one, second best practice we saw was the idea that best ideas actually come from people who are closer to the customers, and in many cases these happen to be your regional colleagues or your channel marketing partners or even your strategic partners who are closer to the customer, to the industry, to the specific use case. And very interesting pattern that we found was that 80% of outperforming campaigns were actually coming from market units or regions. They were not the central campaigns that did well. Actually, the central campaigns tend to perform on an average scale, and the regional campaigns or the end campaigns where people were meeting in the channel, those kinds of joint marketing campaigns were doing much better. Again, we stepped back and said, why does this make sense from our intuition that we built? What we are seeing here is one, if a program is really popular or plan is really popular, a lot of people are applying in or sending in their proposals, which means that you are choosing amongst the best proposals, right? Especially if you have set goals, which is step number one, and then you're choosing the right campaigns to fund. That's half of the wisdom, if you will, because you sourced it from everybody and you funded the best idea. And then because these best ideas are coming from a proximity to customers, which is almost zero, they are at zero distance with their customers. They are much more tuned to that local market's needs, those exact industry use cases, and so on and so forth. A very solid example of this is a financial services system integrator working for a large software company. Found that the new global data protection agreement coming in Europe is a key driver across the board. It's not only important in finance, but it's also super important in marketing and in sales and in customer success, because companies that are collecting customer information are at risk for. Sorry, is there a question? All right, are at risk for not meeting the mandate that has come in here. So they quickly released campaigns and got the product portfolio to focus on that emerging trend coming out of Europe. Next best practice we found was getting endorsements. No campaign succeeds in its vacuum. So one of the best practices we found was get endorsements from people you're working with. These could be your channel partners or strategic alliances, especially across boundaries. For example, this practice is very common at Intel. They regionally endorse their partners' campaigns. And because they endorse partners' campaigns, the partners are in a way also are also aware that they have a strategic partner who is helping them actually succeed. And this leads to 30% less cancellations. Again, stepping back, why does this make sense? We believe that as more companies endorse, for example, if your partners endorse your campaigns, your regional managers or your executives endorse your campaigns, it means they're rooting for their success and also putting in their resources and their time and attention to making sure it's successful. As a result, there are no surprises. And also, hopefully more and higher attendance and engagement on your campaigns. And as a result, because of this buy-in that was collected, And I think this was one of the polling questions as well, that how do you get buy-in from your stakeholders? Endorsements is a really, really good reason and a good way to get buy-in. Fourth was a lot of marketing leaders have said, we simply don't have budget to execute something. And year on year, we all have seen this, the budgets do get cut. But one of the best practices we found here was if you include your strategic partners in your marketing campaigns and in your programs and plans, you can actually increase the campaign budget by up to 2x. And this is certainly true for physical events, conferences, roadshows, lunch and learns, but it's also increasingly true for digital marketing. Your partners, especially on aligned audiences and shared audiences, are willing to pony up and amplify your budget. So we're certainly seeing this where, ROI, if you will, has two aspects. One is the numerator, which is, higher metrics and achievements such as revenue or marketing qualified leads. But there's also a denominator, which is the cost of your campaign, the cost to build it and the cost to run it. And certainly when you get somebody else to share that burden of sharing the marketing costs, the ROI certainly shoots up as well. And specifically, if you are in B2B high tech, you know that a lot of leads actually come from smaller events, but high quality events that are focused on executives, such as, let's say, a roundtable of 20, 25 people focused on, let's say, CFOs or CIOs in a specific industry cluster. Those things really, really convert well because you're able to have a better discussion with the prospects. But also those things tend to be expensive. So one of the ways in which you can reduce the cost is going together to market and partnering up to share budgets. And lastly, in the planning portion of the plan, as we all know, we need to prepare living plans. These plans need not just live in PowerPoint, as 100% of plans change during execution. We actually monitored this. A lot of companies initially told us that when we come to WorkSpan and we plan, the planning cycle will last from Jan 1st to probably end of Jan when they have their field kickoff and sales kickoff meetings. And after that, the plan is frozen for the quarter or for the year. And certainly that did not happen. We found that in general, people reviewed the plan, they changed the plan, they reviewed the plan, changed the plan on a monthly, if not a quarterly cycle. And this is fair, actually. As market conditions change, you will change things. And we found that the top companies that did a better job of making the living plan, we're actually sharing this plan with executives. And one of the things you will notice on WorkSpan when Shin does the demo is the idea that you can have a living plan, a link, a private link that you can share with sales, you can share with executives. It will have a calendar view, it will have a plan view that you can keep everybody up to date on what the plan is now, as opposed to what was the plan at the beginning of the year. So those are the 5 best practices in what I call plan the plan that we've seen on WorkSpan. Now let's talk about the 5 best practices in work the plan. And in the 5 best practices here are, as you get to executing the marketing plan, work out loud. There's a whole trend in the industry called work out loud. Certainly look at this hashtag work out loud. And I feel that as marketing team members who are working with sales, who are working with strategic alliances and channel marketeers, we need to do a better job of actually saying what we are doing and sharing what we are doing. There are certainly practices that we have built into WorkSpan, such as opening your campaigns for discovery from your colleagues or to your colleagues, so that they can knock on the door and request to join if this is of interest to them. And what we are seeing is actually 30% savings by reducing this reinvention of the wheel, right? So if somebody else has already figured out this roadshow, let's just take it, clone it, and run it. If somebody else has an idea around how to go after chief digital officers in marketing plays, learn from that, use it, and then reuse it. So this working out loud, discovering campaigns, joining each other's campaigns is certainly a good practice. Next is a best practice, what we call amplifying audiences. As you know, each company's marketing database has, so many customer or prospect records. But especially when you join ranks with your strategic partners, what you will notice is that you have access to your audience and they have access to their audience. Now, on a combined campaign, if you share, you actually have access to twice the audience. And the idea here is the amplification that we have seen is up to 25%. Actually, that's caption there is incorrect. The idea we have seen here is if you combine your Twitter followers with your partner's Twitter followers, for example, or your central Twitter, Twitter followers with your regional handle, for example, you see that amplification. Currently, there are no really good ways in which on a single campaign, you can combine your audiences across channels, whether it's for email marketing or social marketing, or even search engine marketing. We feel like if you are on a shared campaign together, you can actually amplify audiences in a much better way. This is certainly an advanced practice, and we are seeing some of our advanced users actually use this. One of the common ways in which this is done is, hey, we've run this email campaign for a webinar or for a roadshow, and it has worked well for our audience. Would you mind running this for your audience using your database? And then both parties kind of come back and report how well they are doing on recruitment of a certain campaign. So we've started seeing this trend and this behavior on WorkSpan. Best practice number 8. This is one of my favorite ones. All of us in marketing have seen this, especially with the rise of digital channels, such as Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and others. And what's happening here is that people are specializing by channel, and they see it as their purpose to send out messages on these channels to engage with their audience and grow the number of followers and so on and so forth. But what's happening out of that is the desire to grow followers or the desire to engage actually means that you're engaging with them on any and all topics. And because you feel the compulsion of sending out, let's say, 2 posts a day or 3 messages a week, you are sending anything and everything at the end of the day. And this is contributing a lot to channel noise. And this leads to lack of trust and lack of faith in what you're seeing on these social channels from a lot of companies. Compared to this, if you shift a best practice towards organizing a campaign, and then within the campaign, having channels execute what the marketing campaign is trying to do, then we see that there is much better messaging discipline that needs to be, that's part of that campaign. So idea here is have shared campaigns, have goals that will motivate both sides, and then think about channels and not the other way around. So channels comes after you've decided what the shared campaign is. And then as you're executing these marketing campaigns, you will find many gaps. And as you execute, some campaigns will do well, some won't. So the idea here is take the bottom 25% of your campaigns, simply cut them. Redeploy those funds into the top 25 or top 50% of those campaigns. And this kind of agility has not been seen in any planning execution cycles. And I think certainly having a tool, not only for yourself, but also with your extended partner ecosystem, if you can be in a place where you're constantly measuring these campaigns and looking at non-performing ones and fixing those gaps or moving money across, then this will lead for the overall program to perform better. And lastly, the working the plan best practice. We are seeing that, typically marketing managers or alliance managers or even channel marketeers, they have a certain capacity of managing marketing campaigns either on spreadsheet or Excel or their current PRM tools. And because this is a tool where they don't have an ecosystem or a network engaged, it feels like their bandwidth is constrained. So one best practice that we've seen is if we can clone the top 25% of the campaigns and run it with additional partners, So let's say you have had success with such campaigns in one region. You take those top 25% campaigns and run in another region with different partners. And this makes you exponential. This helps you actually grow the campaigns disproportionately to your effort that you need to place. And companies that do that are able to really, really expand the reach much faster to these campaigns. So I spoke a lot, kind of covered the 5 best practices in planning the plan and 5 best practices in working the plan. And as you can see, this is not just planning in a vacuum. This is planning and execution, which is tying the strategy to the marketing execution on a common platform where people are together, where processes are together, and where data is together. So this might have whetted your appetite to kind of look at the way in which this is done on WorkSpan. So I would like to pass the ball now to Shin to show you a demo of how some of these best practices are done.
Okay. So first, I just wanted to give the introduction to WorkSpan. Some of you might not know WorkSpan that well, but WorkSpan is a network where companies are planning and managing their marketing campaigns. Some companies are managing their individual and their partner campaigns on WorkSpan, such as SAP and Intel, who work together on a variety of marketing initiatives that are coordinated with each other and their respective marketing agencies and teams. Other companies initially use WorkSpan only with their agencies, such as their external PR, their creative, or event marketing contractors. And the difference between WorkSpan and other business and social networks is that, as Amit mentioned earlier, you receive an invitation from your colleagues or your business partners to join them on campaigns that need your input and your action. So here, we're inviting someone, Amit, to join WorkSpan to help us out on a particular campaign. And only those people that you and your colleagues invite will have access to the campaigns and the programs that you share with them on WorkSpan. So here you can see the WorkSpan network page. And the first thing you see when you log into WorkSpan is this network. On the left side is the news that your team and partners have shared with you, or the changes that they've made to any of the campaigns that you're working on together. And then rather than sending another email, you can reply to comments and let your colleagues know that you've seen their updates. Also, these posts are unique to you because you're a member of a particular campaign or a program. Here, Ahmed is showing you how to share a post with your colleagues. And you can select who you want to share it with based on their membership in a particular campaign, in a particular fund or program. You can share it with specific people. You can share it with specific partners. Or you can share it with anyone from your internal team. So it's really powerful and flexible that allows you to keep this running update of activities going on here within WorkSpan, instead of relying on email chains or independent Slack channels or anything else that you might be using. Great. And on the right, the campaigns and funds you've most recently interacted with are displayed for you. Just below that, you get an alerts view of the upcoming dates within the next 7 days, 30 days, or past 30 days. And it's a very powerful and simple way for you to stay up to date with all the campaign dates that are important to you. As a program owner who manages a budget or pipeline goal, I'm interested in all the campaigns that we need to run in order to achieve our goals. So in WorkSpan, the funds area is where you can see all the campaigns that you and your field marketing and even your external partners have proposed to run. Great. So in this view, you can see all the funds that you have access to. And if we click on the Google Channel Marketing Plan 2017, as the best practice, the first best practice that Amit shared is, you see it very prominently displayed here, the goals and results. So the first thing that you do when you create your plan is you want to have that overarching goals and results, and you want to track to them. And with placing this here, everyone is reminded when they log into WorkSpan and look at the fund of the goals and results that you've committed to. And then the other best practice here is right below it, so the endorsements. So you can request endorsements from your business partners and make sure that they've taken a look at your fund plan and your campaign plans and are really aligned and on the same page with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and something to quickly add here is notice a couple of things here. One is you're collaboratively building. First, this is a program or fund, probably well into its execution. But initially, you will have just goals here, right? And as you can imagine, as you're collaboratively planning this your marketing plan for this year or next year, you can bring in the right set of people to help co-plan this with you. And this could even straddle companies. So if you are working with a select set of strategic partners or your channel partners, you can also include them at varying levels. And when you invite them, you can set their level when you join as to whether somebody is a participant or a collaborator on the specific campaign. And the app itself recommends you who you can invite based on what you're trying to do. Now, once you put this plan together, we often see people engaging in context with comments like this, saying, are goals too aggressive, or are goals sufficient to meet our sales objectives, or something like that, right? So when you have this kind of back and forth happening in context with the plan gets fleshed out and done in a much better way, where there is buy-in on the goal. There's a set of people who have come together to actually help you do it. And remember, as Shin was showing before, it's not just your plan. Let's say this is the channel marketing plan. But on the previous screen, there were other plans as well. So for example, this could be a channel marketing plan. You could have another plan with a specific strategic partner, or even regional partners who are working with you, or even regions, sales regions can have their own specific plans as well. So here's an example of how another region could be another plan, or your top partners could be another plan, and so on and so forth. So this allows you to create multiple plans, and inside each one of these plans, you can have multiple campaigns. So I'm going to go back into the channel marketing plan that we were showing you before. Go ahead, Shin.
Great. So if we click into the campaigns tab here under the funds, we can kind of see a linear view of all the campaigns in each of the process steps that our company has set. So we might have an incoming or a proposed set. We move them to review once we're ready to take a look at them. Once campaigns have been approved or pending approval, we can keep moving them forward. So all of the people who have proposed a plan know where that plan is in the process. And you can see here there's 3 incoming campaigns that have been proposed. And we can leave comments here for these campaign owners. We can also assign work to them, add comments, or if we feel that the plan is pretty solid, we can move them into review or approve them right here. Great. So this is a view of all the campaigns that are currently in execution. And you see how powerful this is, that you can see how much has been spent, requested, and committed, and then the goals and results that have been achieved through all of these plans as well. And as you can see, these metrics are all different based on the campaign itself. And with the color coordinated sliders there, you can see the progress that has been achieved on each of these campaigns. Another powerful view here from our campaigns is the calendar view. So if we click on that.
Yeah, this is the part, this is the best practice around accountability, right? When you meet together in weekly reviews or monthly reviews, instead of kind of putting together PowerPoints, you can get onto this one place. And this has the live data around which campaigns are performing and which ones are not. And in this calendar view, you can see when it is happening as well. So across all regions, you could also do this by industry or any parameter that's important to you. For example, for many companies, partnerships are important. So you can see by partner, which campaigns are where.
Great points, Amit. And if we go to the last view, the tabular view, this is a great view for the planning process. So as you can see, all the campaigns here, you can see the campaign name, the description, the requested funds. We've got a couple save views in here as well. So under views, you can see the region roll-up. And so you can see how much has been requested and committed to each region. And then when you click on the expand caret there, you can get more of the details from the campaign itself. You can make sure that you've got coverage among the regions, among the industries for each region, as well as taking a look at their goals and making sure that those roll up into the goals that you committed for. So if you keep scrolling, yeah, you see the some of the qualified leads and the marketing touch pipeline that is being committed for each of these plans. And it's a really powerful and very simple and intuitive way to do your planning and to share this plan with your regional and your field partners, as well as your external partners. So that was the another best practice that Amit had mentioned, is just really sharing this plan out with everyone, reducing those iteration cycles, and making sure that everyone is giving their input and their buy-in.
Yeah, this share feature is very, very powerful. So if you want to share this plan with your head of sales or CMO, what they will get is a link like this. And I've just logged into incognito mode to show you how this works. Now they can see and review this plan and they don't need a login into WorkSpan in order to see this. So you'll be able to share with them a living plan, which was one of the best practices that we talked about. Yeah, and this living plan, allows them to get a sense of what goals, and notice that their view is a little bit curtailed. They're not seeing all the details that the marketing ops person or the person holding the plan is seeing. They're seeing a very curated view where goals and objectives are front and center. They're seeing a list of campaigns. They cannot approve or do things or click around except look into things like the calendar and so on and so forth. So this becomes a living plan that is shared, that's probably embedded into many of these PowerPoints that are presented on a weekly, on a quarterly, or on an annual basis on many WorkSpan companies today.
Another ways that we're seeing this shared is with your field teams and your sales teams as well. Again, instead of creating an Excel slide or PowerPoints for your weekly touch bases with your sales team, simply share the plan and walk through the plan and activities with them with your WorkSpan.
Awesome. Now, Shin, should we go into the individual campaigns? So this plan view provides the forest view of all the campaigns. Now let's go into the campaigns view, which is what an individual marketing manager, who's sending a proposal, will do.
Yes. So all of your funds programs are made up of individual campaigns, and just like the funds, you can discover them here on the card view, and if you can see you've got some campaigns that you can discover, that you can join. You have campaigns that you've been invited to and you can accept, and the ones that you've created yourself or are already a part of a working team with, you can go in and manage those as well on My Campaigns.
Yeah. Actually, this is one of the best practices that we were highlighting, working out loud, right? The fact that I can see what my colleague Milind is working on. If this is of interest to me, because let's say I happen to be in North America and running a roadshow as well, it will be good to learn from a colleague or a partner who's running another show somewhere. So I can send this person a quick request to join. and when that person logs in, he will see this request coming from me and hopefully approve me to join this campaign. The other one is, because we're sitting on top of a network, it is very, very easy to invite your partners or your colleagues or even your agencies into these campaigns. And these are 3 such invitations that I've received. If I accept one of these invitations, I will become a full member of this campaign. This one.
And if we click in on the Digital Media and Technology Week campaign, we can see that this one has been proposed. There's no results coming in yet, so we know that we're still working on it. And when I come in, I can see that there's been some comments made here on the campaign objectives. Okay, it's telling me I need to add in a lead goal, because we had a lead goal from last year. And that I should get an endorsement from someone on the API field team. Okay. And I just did that this morning. So I've got the endorsement. And now that the API team is on board, then I know that this plan can be fully funded and we can start building and executing on it.
Something like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. It's very easy to request endorsement from your sales executives or partners, get their buy-in. And with more and more people endorsing a specific campaign, you get a sense that, this has grassroots support and will definitely not be canceled, will definitely be executed. And this was one of the best practices that we were highlighting during my talk track.
And if we look at the funding portion of this campaign, we can see that actually you can get funding from 2 different funds, and in this case, 2 different partners, or internally and an external partner as well.
Yeah, and this reduces your burden and this drives the return on investment higher, right? So this was also one of the best practices of co-investment that we talked about.
The activity section of the campaign is where you're going to do the meat and the bulk of all of your ideas and proposals, and tracking the work, and then measuring how you're performing against those. And if this were a campaign that was fully in flight, you'd see results in here, and those results can be integrated in from your CRM systems, your marketing automation, and other marketing technology stack.
Yeah, and this is one of the best practices that I was highlighting as well, which is when you think of marketing campaigns and activities inside them, if there are multiple companies and each company takes on marketing to their audiences, you suddenly see the amplification of audiences. And that'll be a very nice best practice. And then, of course, you guys can get together on shared messages in terms of what are shared campaign assets that will go in here. And we certainly see that as you focus on campaigns, you have a higher discipline around not propagating anything and everything on channels, but being really targeted with your messages. And we have a whole asset section to actually drive that. And lastly, just rounding out, there is an ability to assign work, especially agencies as well as partners. Very difficult to keep a campaign team accountable to the due dates and progress that is being made. So there's a whole task management with due dates and prioritization that you can see here. So the idea here is very quickly kind of find out if these tasks are not getting done. You can remind those folks, or actually see this by, see this by campaigns, or see this by overdue items, so that you can work on things that are past due only. And this will focus you on, what is the main activity or main task that is outstanding just ahead of a planning call, for example. So shall we, Shin, with this, shall we wrap up the review of the demo side and open it up to everybody for questions?
Yeah, that would be great. We're running at the top of the hour, and so wanted to leave a few minutes for anyone to ask any questions that they might have. It looks like we just have one question here so far, um, and that is, what is your pricing? And
Yeah, that's a great question. We don't price by the number of campaigns or number of users. We price by the number of external partners that you work with. And there are certainly tiers of those. So if you work with channel partners, it's a lower price. If you work with a strategic partner, it's a higher price. And the other metric we price by is the amount of marketing funds that you manage for your annual marketing plan.
Great. Great. Another question we have is, how would I sign up for WorkSpan if it's invite only?
Yeah, so one of the things we are doing as part of this webinar is all of you who are attending the webinar today, we'll be inviting you to create your marketing plan for free. And if you love it, you can purchase and execute the plan in 2018. So we'll be giving you an invitation as your trusted network partners to come in, join, and create your marketing plans.
And I just want to make sure we'll give everyone another 30 seconds or so to type in any other questions that they might have. And again, remind you all, we'll be sending you a link to sign up on WorkSpan. You can build out your 2018 plan. You can reach out to the team here at WorkSpan, and we'll help you enact all of the best practices that Amit shared today, and how you can build out a very collaborative marketing plan, dynamic and shareable with all of your colleagues.
Okay, there's one more question. How do I get trained on WorkSpan? Actually, this tool doesn't require training. What you do is when you join WorkSpan, we place a 4-minute video from one of our colleagues, which introduces you to WorkSpan. That's about the training that you need. And then embedded, and actually this is a very nice feature that we have built into the app. Wanted to quickly show it to you. You can actually go and click on any colleague and obviously chat with them. And one of the things you can do, we use the same chat feature to ask questions. So when you see this WorkSpan support icon here, click on that and you can ask it questions. And we have a bot that actually answers questions. But also when it cannot answer questions, reaches out to WorkSpan Concierge, who's actually a real person. That person will definitely answer your question if it's not already one of those frequently asked questions that the bot can learn from.
Okay, great. Would love to thank everyone for attending today. We hope to see you planning your marketing campaigns on WorkSpan very soon. And thank you very much to Amit for speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shin, as well. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Take care. Bye.